Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the previous lesson we did direct and indirect speech relating to the imperative sentences, and today we are going to do it with relating to the interrogative sentences. What are interrogative sentences? In which a question is asked, a direct question is asked. So today we are going to see it when there's an interrogative sentence in the direct speech, how to change it into indirect speech. Imperative sentences we have already done. Assertive or declarative sentences we have already done, and today we will see this. Rules. There are 6 very important rules to changing a direct speech into indirect speech when it comes to interrogative sentences. First of all is that said to is changed into asked. Second is that says to changes into asks. Say to will change into ask accordingly. Rule number 4, very important one. If the reported speech, what is the reported speech which is given inside the inverted commas, starts with a verb, use if or whether. If the reported speech means the speech in the inverted commas starts with a verb, what are the verbs? Do, does, did, is, are, am, will, shall. All these are verbs. So if, have and has and had, all these are verbs. So if the reported speech in the direct speech, the reported speech starts with a verb, we will use if and whether. Number 5, we will elaborate this more, understand this more with the examples coming up. Number 5, if the reported speech starts with WH questions. What are WH questions? Why, how, what, where, whom, and when भी आएगा. If the reported speech means the speech inside the inverted comma starts with WH questions or it starts with how, do not use if or whether. Keep these rules in mind, and we will see it in the examples very soon. No question mark is used in indirect speech. Question marks are only used in direct speeches. Because why? Because the question marks are only used in the direct questions. In the indirect questions, question marks are not used. Now see, let's do these examples to elaborate further and to understand better what we have just learned. He said, do you own a car? Question mark, inverted commas, close. This is the reported speech, this is the reporting speech, this is the reported speech. Said to is changed into asked, he asked. And since you can see in the reported speech the sentence is starting with the verb, and we saw in the rule that if the reported speech starts with the verb, do is a verb, we will use if to replace the inverted commas. He asked if I owned a car. Why did I change own into owned? Because the reporting speech was in the past tense, and we have learned previously that if the reporting speech is in the past tense and the reported speech is in the present indefinite tense, as in this case, then the present indefinite case will change into past indefinite. So own will change into owned, as we already know. He asked if I owned a car. But one more thing, that I have not placed a question mark here because this is no more a direct question. How do we know that it is not a direct question? Because in the first sentence it was a direct question, we have put the question mark. Listen very carefully. How do we know it is a direct question? Because the verb is coming before the subject, do is coming before you is the subject. In this case I is the subject and owned is the verb. In this case the subject is placed before the verb. So whenever the subject is placed before the verb, it is an indirect question, and whenever the subject is placed after the verb, it is a direct question. And we put the question marks in direct questions, we do not put the question marks in indirect questions. Number 2, I said to my friend, have you completed your assignment? I told you said to will change into asked my friend, and since we know that the reported speech is starting with the verb, so therefore we will replace it with if. We will replace the inverted commas with if. If he had, have will change into had because the reporting speech was in the past tense. We change the tenses, listen very carefully. We change the tense of the reported speech only if the reporting speech is in the past tense. If the reporting speech is in the present tense or if the reporting speech is in the future tense, we do not change the tense of the reported speech. This is a very important thing to know. I said to my friend, have you completed your assignment? Have the verb, the sentence is starting, the reported speech is starting with the verb, so this is a direct question, and we will so we have put the question mark, and when we change it we will use if. We do not use if or whether. If भी use कर सकते हैं, whether भी use कर सकते हैं, doesn't make any difference. But we do not use if or whether when the question is not starting with the verb, it is starting with WH questions or how. So we will see them later too. If he had completed his or her assignment, again the subject is coming first and the verb is coming second. So it means this is an indirect question, right? So we will not put the question mark. Do not write had he completed his task. If you write had he completed his task, it will become a direct question. That will be wrong, and you will have to put the question mark at the end. In fact, it will be completely wrong. Number 3, she says to her mother. Now in this case I've used the present tense in the reporting speech. She says to her mother, do you want me to cook? She asks her mother. Says is changed into asked, and since the reported speech is starting with the verb, so we will use if again. If she wants her to cook, again the subject is coming before the verb, so this is an indirect question. If she wants, I've changed want into wants because she is a singular third person. This was present indefinite. This is also present indefinite. The reason is that this is the present tense. When the reporting speech is in the present tense, we do not change the tense of the reported speech. Next, doctor says to the patient, how are you feeling? Now in this case, this sentence, the reported speech is not starting with the verb. It is starting with how. So you will not use if or whether in the indirect speech. Doctor asks the patient how he is feeling. How is he feeling? Do not say how is he feeling. If you write is he feeling, in that case the verb will be placed before the subject and it will become a direct question, and we have to put the question mark there. That will be completely wrong because we are doing the indirect speech. So how he is feeling. Now again I have not changed the tense in the reported speech because the reporting speech was in the present tense. There are some more examples. We will do this to further understand the interrogative sentences. Father said to his son, do you want to study commerce? This reported speech is starting with a verb, so we will replace it with if or whether. So when we change it, what will we write? Father asked his son, asked ed ke sath, asked his son if he wanted to study commerce. This was the present indefinite. Since the reporting speech is in the past tense, so I have changed the present indefinite according to the rule into past indefinite, and the indirect speech will be, listen carefully, father asked his son if he wanted to study commerce, and no question mark, full stop. Number 2, teacher said, where have you been for so long? In this case, in this sentence, the reported speech is not starting with the verb, so we will not use if or whether. We will say that teacher asked where he had been for so long. Teacher asked where you can use I, you can use you, or you can use he, because we do not know who the other person is. So listen carefully. Teacher said where you had been for so long. Do not say where had you been for so long, because that again, in that case, that will become a direct question, because had is the verb that will be placed before the subject. Do it like this. Listen again carefully. Teachers asked where you had been for so long, full stop. That's it. Have will change into had because this reporting speech was in the past tense, so I have changed the present perfect into past perfect according to the rule. Number 3, John said to his friend, If you want to know the rules that I'm repeating again and again, you watch my previous videos, previous lessons on direct speech and indirect speech, on assertive sentences and declarative sentences, and also imperative sentences. So if you watch them in a sequence, if you have not watched them before, then you will be completely clear about the rules. John said to his friend, "What are assertive sentences?" John asked his friend what assertive sentences were. Since the reporting speech is in the past tense, so I will change the reported speech from present to past tense as well, according to the rule. I am repeating it, and I will not use if and whether because it is starting with the WH question. John asked his friend what assertive sentences were. Number 4, she says, "Will you help me out of this trouble?" Now this is present tense, so we will not change the tense of the reported speech. She asks if. We will use if because this is starting with the verb. She asks if you would help her out of this trouble. She asks if you would help her out of this trouble. No question mark, full stop. You can use you can use maybe I if she was talking to you, but it is safe to use you. She asks if you will help her out of this trouble. You will not change will into would. You will not change will into would because you will not change the tense because the reporting speech is in the present tense. I'm repeating it. She asks if you would help her out of this trouble. Full stop. Number 5. Anna says to her brother, "Did you post the letter?" Anna asks her brother. Anna asks her brother if he posted the letter. Anna asks her brother if he posted the letter. So that's it for now. Thank you.